I don't think it's necessary to share our most scarring and horrific family trip with everyone.
Yeah? It was that bad?
Mm-hmm.
We were gonna go to the lake today, but
there were so many things for us to do. So we're gonna go do those, but I have two things to share with you today. One of them happened 7 years ago today, and the other thing is we're going to try and do something that we haven't done in 2 years. 7 years ago, this very day,
we experienced something that very few, if any, people from Louisiana ever have the privilege of experiencing. But before we tell you about that, we have to get a supply.
yes. We found what we're looking for, we think, but now we're going to go somewhere I haven't been in 2 years. First time in over 2 years that I've done this. I'm already reminded of why I don't do this. This is a dangerous aisle. Okay. So this is not the first time that I've been in Kroger, but it's the first time in 2 years that I have gotten groceries for the whole week with children. I remember why I never do this. Mom, I need this. What about this? I don't know if we have it or not, but we need 3 of them. Send somebody, I need help. So for the last 2 years, I have been getting Click List because it's a sanity saver. I used to think it was for the lazy people, but no, it's just for mamas who want to keep some sanity left. So while I'm here, I'm going to get some sanity back.
Yeah, all of this, and this.
$372.90. All my friends, you know why we love Click List? We love Click List because it saves us money. I do believe I spent $50 to $75 more by bringing my whole crew. So Click List, you save me a ton of money every week, and I love you. I miss you. I'll see you again.
So it is literally the hottest day of 2019. We could be out in the boat, but instead we're toting in groceries.
7 years ago, this very day, we were in Costa Rica, just finished breakfast, and we were out for our morning swim. When all of a sudden, wait, let me explain to you why we were in Costa Rica.
So 7 years ago was Heather and I's 10-year wedding anniversary. And I had this brilliant idea that it would be great for us as a family to go spend a month in Costa Rica. Now, not some tourist area of Costa Rica, but a remote village in Costa Rica. And keep in mind, at the time, we only had 3 kids and they were young. So Truett was 5, Jet would have been 2, and Hudson right around 1 year old. Now, things did not go according to plan.
Each one of us remember Costa Rica a little bit differently, like the kids. So Truett, what do you remember about Costa Rica?
Hold on, let me show you these cool new socks.
Okay. Where'd you get those from?
Bombas.com. They're these really cool socks. Every time you buy a pair, they donate it to homeless shelters.
Oh, okay.
So it's,
are they real pricey?
yeah, because they have to donate another pair, so you basically pay for the price of 2 for 1.
So you buy 2 pairs of socks and they just send you 1. That's like the new marketing strategies?
Well, I guess.
So what was your favorite part about Costa Rica? You didn't share with me.
Well, I don't think it's necessary to share our most scarring and horrific family trip with everyone.
Yeah? It was that bad?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any, like, decent memories?
Well, the food was horrible. You can't drink the tap water or the shower water. And my grandmother told me that riptides were going to kill me.
Rip currents are powerful channels of water that can drag the unwitting far out to sea.
So I'm terrified, food's horrible, and I can't drink any water.
And he's
there you have it.
5 years old. So he was just a little bit terrified, along with... Jet, what was your favorite part about Costa Rica?
Staying at the house, watching the Jeanette show, playing tag, hide and seek.
Do you remember anything about, like, a dog
Yes.
or a horse? Do you remember any of that?
Yes, I remember like a tornado or something or a storm. And I do remember me riding on a horse.
No, riding on a horse. That makes a whole lot more sense, that song. Riding on a horse.
You can whip your Porsche. I've been in a valley.
No, that wasn't. Yeah.
I don't remember any of it.
You don't remember this, or this?
Nope.
Well, he was just 1 year old. What was your favorite part about Costa Rica?
I don't remember anything.
Well,
That might be because she was in my tummy. We brought back her from Costa Rica. So being the geniuses that we are, we decided not just to go to Costa Rica, but a remote village in Costa Rica.
The whole place is nothing but thick jungles infested by the most dangerous beasts in the entire world.
I don't know if you can see, this is Costa Rica, and there's a little tiny place that sticks out right there. Let me draw this for you. Let me show you what Costa Rica.
It looks like a high heel.
Funny. So this, my friends, is San Jose. This is where we flew in. Most tourists go over here in the Gulf area, or they go up here. No, we decided to go over here on the Nicoya Peninsula. Right here is Santa Teresa. Now there's two ways. There's only two ways to get there. One is you go from here and you travel all these roads and you end up way down here. That is about a 15-hour process to do that. So instead we decided we drive here, take a ferry across here, and then travel these roads, which doesn't look like much. This route right here, the ferry route, if you had been in the States with our modern roads, that would probably only take about 2 hours, but because we were there and it was a remote village, it actually took
6 hours.
Day one, we left Houston, Texas, and we flew into San Jose. But there's a couple of things we didn't take into consideration.
You can't plan everything. What we didn't take into consideration is that there on the equator at 6 p.m., it's dark. And I'm not talking about the sun is fading. I'm talking about it gets dark right away.
We got off the ferry over here on the Nicoya Peninsula, and it was starting to get dark. The problem was, even though the distance from where we got off the ferry to the property isn't very far, it takes forever. You see, this is actually video footage of the main road that we traversed while we were there.
This is the main road. No, seriously, this is the main road.
So we finally made it, and we ran into a couple of other problems.
First of all, they do not have addresses.
They use the property names as the address. That's great in theory, but when it's dark outside and you can't read the property names on the sides of the fences and the buildings because it's dark.
Add to it that our housekeeper doesn't speak any English, and we don't speak very much Spanish. So if you count uno, dos, tres, or
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
that's where we're at. So between the two of us, it was very hard, and you can imagine it was very stressful with young parents and little ones traveling in the night in a foreign place in the remote village of
Santa Teresa. That was day one.
So day two, we just kind of get familiar with our surroundings and we go grocery shopping
And we checked out the property, which was gorgeous. But then day three.
Day three. So it is date night. Yes, we try to do that at least once a month, maybe?
But they don't care about date night, do you? No.
That's true. It's day three. It started off like every other day. We had finally gotten into our routine and we were eating breakfast. We ate eggs and bacon, and then the kids and I moved to the pool while Wayne finished up some emails.
I would usually sit right at the kitchen table. And I remember going out that morning and I hadn't made it in the pool yet. And that's when we knew.
Something just was not right.
So what was it? I just remember the sound of, the whole time we'd been there, we had heard iguanas running across the metal roof. And I remember hearing the sound that sounded like an iguana running across the roof, but then it just kept growing. The sound kept growing louder and louder and louder. And
Right, and the kids and I were in the pool, and so it seemed like all of a sudden it felt like we were in the ocean. The waves started toppling over and getting higher and higher.
And I remember looking at the back of the house, which had these massive wooden columns holding up the back of the house. And I remember seeing them just start to sway back and forth.
Yes.
And I don't think I realized at the time that it was an earthquake, but I do remember yelling, "Get out of the pool, get out of the pool."
And we heard the crashing sounds of the plates inside, the urns of the flower pots were tipped over, and so we knew something wasn't right. I don't know how long it took. It literally probably was only 10 seconds before we realized we're in an earthquake.
To turn our attention back now to the magnitude 7.6 earthquake that has hit just off the coast of Costa Rica.
But, you know, being from Louisiana, that's not your first thought when all of these things are going wrong.
I remember the distinct sound after the earthquake.
So silence.
That was exactly what we heard after the earthquake. It was very eerie. I can't even explain it. And the first thing Heather started mentioning was
tsunami.
Tsunami warnings were issued for much of Central and South America.
Literally after 2 or 3 minutes, the housekeeper comes running around from the front of the house screaming, La Montana, something, 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 La Montana. And so we basically figure out, he's saying, go up the mountain, go up the mountain.
Grab our passports, grab our kids, head up the mountain. We're picking up strangers and we're like, you know, what's going on?
We actually found out where the epicenter of the earthquake was from Heather's mom, who was back here in Louisiana watching CNN.
News that the tsunami warning has been lifted for many areas.
Although we were safe, it wasn't going to be a joyride.
If you think an earthquake is the adventure, no. Hang on, because the next few days of our time in Costa Rica were far more of an adventure than an earthquake.
So we come down off La Montana, whatever it is.
The mountain.
Yes, and there's no electricity.
I think it may have been that evening possibly that Truett started mentioning that he wasn't feeling the best. So the next day he gets up and we're just trying to get our bearings again. And honestly, I remember Heather being very, very nervous and kind of saying like, I don't know if we can stay here. And I was trying to reassure that everything was gonna be fine. Once electricity comes back on, everything was gonna be okay.
I think we got electricity the next day and you had scheduled...
I'd scheduled surfing lessons. I was going for maybe 2 hours or so.
When we had a downpour, this is their rainy season, and the electricity goes off, when you get back, things start to go downhill. Truett gets worse and worse throughout the night.
Yeah.
I believe he woke up with 105.5.
So in the middle of the night, I take Truett, put him in the car, and I go try to find a local doctor or an emergency room. The doctor shows up and she walks in and she literally looks like she's 18 years old. I'm on this little tiny phone. It wasn't a smartphone. It was just this little phone trying to figure out what medicine she was recommending to give him. It was a shot. I finally figured out that it was some form of nausea shot to help him keep the medicines down.
We thought this was going to be the start of it getting better, Truett. Well, that was not the case at all. As soon as that shot wore off, it was back to the same, if not worse.
So I'd actually scheduled a lesson with the same surf instructor for that next day, and he was the only person in the town that I knew that spoke some English. It was very broken English, but he spoke English. So I called him and I said, look, here's the situation with our son. I explained all the symptoms and what was taking place. And I said, what should we do? And his recommendation was, he said, you need to get your son to San Jose as quick as you possibly can, because I think from what you're explaining to me that he could have dengue fever and no one here can treat that. We threw everything together, we packed all our bags, we hopped in the car, and we rushed to go catch the ferry and catch the very last ferry out.
The last one. We get on it and the kids are exhausted.
We arrived at the hotel a little after midnight and got checked in.
Plans were, since we got there, we were gonna let the kids sleep in.
Didn't happen that way. So at around maybe 3, Heather comes to me and says he can't keep medicine down. His fever's back up to 104 plus. I've got to take him to the hospital. So her and Truett at 3 or 4 in the morning, get in a cab in a foreign country with me and the other 2 young ones there. So she gets in the car, goes to the hospital.
And they were phenomenal. They keep Truett on fluids and, you know, he's pretty bad off. They run blood work and samples and all kinds of stuff, and then they come back and tell us what we, you know, were hoping it wasn't. And sure enough, it was not dengue fever, but it was actually, I believe, rotavirus, a terrible virus.
She basically said, don't leave the area. You need to be close to the hospital until his fever breaks and stays down for more than 24 or 48 hours.
Right.
Put us in a tough situation. Obviously, we couldn't go back. We had to stay close to the hospital until his fever broke. And so at that point, we began questioning, do we stay? Do we call and move our flights up? What do we do at this point?
At this point, you guys know my answer. I was like, just get me home where I know where everything is and I can give my child what he needs. And so I'm a little, dramatic. I know y'all wouldn't guess that, but Wayne was like, maybe we'll just stay here another week and when he feels better. And I was done, ladies and gentlemen.
So we ended up staying in the hotel right next to the hospital for, I think, 4 nights, but we decided to go ahead and move our flights up. Our flight in Houston was delayed, so it pushed us getting back here. I think it was till 10 o'clock. And so as soon as we get home,
I take, along with his mom, take Truett to the ER for another second opinion. So we just wanted to have him checked out, make sure there wasn't something secondary that was going on, and they did a list of labs, test results, all kinds of things just to make sure he didn't catch anything while he was over there. And everything turned out just fine. However, that lasted like 5 more days, 7 more days of fever. So he ended up like 2 to 3 weeks of 101 to 105 fever. Thank you so much for visiting our adventure with us and what happened 7 years ago today. But back to current reality. I am loving, loving, loving this book. It's called The Call of the Wild and Free. I have only gotten into 1 chapter of the book, so I can't give you a whole synopsis of it, but I love it. So what do you guys want to hear more about? Do you want to hear more about the books that I'm reading or that I've enjoyed? Or do you want to know more about homeschooling and homeschooling life? Or maybe you want to know what it is to homeschool every day. What does that look like for us? Let me know in the comments, what do you want to hear more about? Books, Happy Planner, homeschool life, whatever it is, let me know. So share it in the comments below and we will see you guys next time.
Duct tape, ink, insert your... Again?